Welcome everybody. This is Mayor Steve Haggerty. I'm excited today to have both of our superintendents here, Phil Earhart with District 65 and Eric Witherspoon, who's been our beloved superintendent for many, many years at ETHS. Today, what we thought we would do is do a quick spotlight on one of the sectors that's part of the mayor's COVID-19 task force that I established right after the pandemic started. And we just wanted to take a little time and give our viewers an opportunity to understand how the schools are handling this challenging time. So with that, let's just go right into it. I thought, Phil, I think a lot about the younger students in town. I have, a sixth grader. I also have a high school student, so I can sort of see it from both perspectives. But, for the younger students, I think e-learning could potentially even be more of a challenge in my mind. And so can you talk to us about what that transition's been like from the traditional classrooms now to e-learning, and how you think students and the teachers are adapting?
That's a great question. For us, it was a little more of a challenge because we only have one-to-one computing at the middle schools for grades 6, 7, and 8. So that aspect has gone very well on working through that. When we moved to the lower grades, we had to do a two-prong approach to that. The first part of it was dismantle a lot of our computers that were in computer labs so we could distribute that to our younger students so they could have the technology for that. The second thing is, through the generosity of our community, we have had some donations that have been made, and we've been able to purchase more computers and, just as importantly, hotspots. A matter of fact, tomorrow we are distributing another 130 hotspots to some of our younger students so that they have the connectivity to be able to do the remote learning with that. As we move to the lower grades, as you alluded to, Mayor, it is more of a challenge. And our teachers are up to that challenge, and it's been a learning curve for them. We're very proud of them for being a continuous learner as well and how to adapt to meet their needs. The other challenging part we have had has been looking at our students that have significant disabilities and how do we provide meaningful education to them that will benefit them through the long run with that as well. We all know that direct instruction is much more powerful than remote learning is. So we know there's going to be somewhat of a learning dip, and we're aware of that, and we'll be planning accordingly how we're going to address that as we move into the future with that. The last thing we've been doing to meet the challenges is we have been providing professional development for 5 days for our teachers so that they can become more adept on using all of the communication tools that we have available for that.
Great. Well, thank you for that. Now, Eric, how about at the high school? I mean, these kids are pretty independent, right? It's a piece of cake, or there's some challenges there too for teachers and students?
All right, there might be a few challenges. I will give credit to Phil in District 65. I do think that it's a little easier with older learners who've reached the high school than it would be clearly with a second or a third grader. I can only imagine the challenges. One of the advantages we actually have had is we do have one-to-one learning. All of our students, when they come here as freshmen, they get their own Chromebook. They are able to keep it through their entire high school time. For years now, we've been using technology in classes. They're used to turning in, they turn in all their assignments using technology even prior to this. They understand how to work with their teachers and communicate. That's the good news. And so it has helped a lot. And our students overwhelmingly have responded. We're having over 3,000 students every day of our 3,700 attend class. And it's not like it's only 3,000. If a kid misses one day, they may be back the next, but somebody else maybe misses a day. So the vast majority, 95% of our seniors are attending their classes all the time. So that's the good news. But education, the way it's designed currently in our country and most of the world, is designed to be in person. It's that milieu that you create. It's that interaction with the teacher. It's that relationship building. It's all those things that happen that weren't planned, that are these sometimes not good, but many times a magical moment of learning. And we've all been Zooming. Zoom is now a verb. And thank you for Zooming us today. But a lot of that in-person relationship building and interaction is lost. And so I give huge shout out to our high school students, huge shout out to our teachers. The transition has gone well, but it's not completely the same.
Eric, I would add to that, you made a really good point that all of us have to work harder on the social and emotional needs that our students have, because they don't have that one-to-one relationships like you were talking about in either the high school level or at the elementary and middle school level.
Yeah, I was going to say, and it's, as a parent, and we're all parents, there's a relationship that you have with your children, and then you're out and about and you hear somebody else talk about your child, right? Because your child has this other experience where they're interacting with adults, and they're still a child, but they're interacting with adults. And we are losing that everywhere, not just in Evanston, that. And there's so much value, I think, that probably comes from that.
There really is.
Let's talk about some of the key challenges Evanston schools will be facing over the next several months, because the anxiety, there's lots of anxiety related to this pandemic, but one part of it is not knowing when this is over and what the future looks like. And so could you talk about that? Eric, why don't you take this one first, and then we'll go to Phil.
Okay. Yeah, and thank you for mentioning challenges, because we'd have, like everybody, the city, everybody, there's so many unknowns. But everything we hear, and those of us who really try to pay attention to science and medical research and public health officials, we know that this isn't going to be an easy fix. And these issues are going to be facing us for quite some time. And in that context, I must tell you, I worry, because I worry, as much as I want everybody back, bringing all those young people back together in a school too soon, I think is really something that should concern us. I think we really need to understand, many of us know as parents and when we were ourselves kids, seems like when the flu or something is going around in the school, everybody is getting the flu. Everybody is coming down with wherever it is, because of just how young people interact with one another and how it really is close quarters. And so I think one of the big challenges we're going to have is not only continuing to rev up and even deliver our education better remotely, but we're going to have some real challenges if we do start to reopen, whenever that may come. I don't think it's going to be just, we hear this comment, Dr. Fauci will say, it's not like turning on a light switch. Well, this certainly isn't going to be just turning on a switch. I think that we're going to have a lot of planning and have to take so many precautionary steps, even when the time comes that we can start easing back into anything even remotely similar to what schools may have looked like before.
Right. And Phil, what do you have stuff to add?
I would echo what Eric said and take it, probably the next step is to, we're concerned not just about the students, but also about the staff, because they're much more susceptible to this. And then as our students go home with their parents, their grandparents, you have multi-generational going on, that's a second one. And then I think another challenge we have, and Mayor, you've mentioned it already for the city, is the financial challenge that we have facing us. As we look at our budget, not just for 20, but also for 21, which is going to have an even bigger impact. What is going to be the property tax payment percentage? We've been running about 99%, but we know it's going to be lower as there are hard times right now. We also know that the number of appeals has gone up tenfold. We've been running about 4 to 5 a year, and now we're about 40 to 50, just because of the hard times that are going on with that as well. And then I think both Eric and I would share this. We're concerned on the state revenue that we get. It's much smaller than the 80% from local property taxes, but the state has taken a real revenue hit too. So that's another issue that we have.
Lots of challenges coming at us from every different direction, and our families as well, and our businesses here in town. One thing that's on the minds of lots of parents is, what is the outlook, for the summer and the fall, look like, and how are you preparing for that? Phil, you want to?
That's a great question. First of all, we're looking at it from the standpoint of, for the summer. At this point, we're going to be continuing to do remote learning as we were doing now for our summer school program. Both of our districts, I know, have a lot of community agencies that use our schools as well. And at this point, we're of course saying they will not be used, but we're waiting to see what the latest is from the health officials. And if that were to change, then we'll make the adjustments for that. For the fall, we're looking at a number of scenarios. One scenario would be that we'll be back to normal. I don't think there will be a normal as we know it now, but some type of a normal, which is pretty unlikely. Second option would be to look at doing remote learning again in the fall. A third option we're looking at is if the guidelines come out where we would do social distancing and all the other health precautions for that, we could look at having both a kind of a hybrid model where students might go to school part of the day to make sure we have the 6-foot social distancing. Another part of the day, they may have remote learning going on. So we're looking really at those three scenarios to see where we'll do. Make all the plans we have for that. As we said before, we'll have to see what the health officials say is in the best interest and the safety of our students and also the community as well.
Sure. How about for the high school, Eric?
So summer school is absolutely going to be remote. The earliest we would even anticipate anything going on in our building would be at the start of next school year, if that were even possible. But one of the big things for summer is we know that there's been a loss of learning. We know that there have been students who have fallen behind in their credits. We know that there is a need for more remediation. So we are really going to have a robust summer school, which might seem the opposite of what you'd expect with all of this going on. We'll offer not only a lot of the courses we would normally offer where students are trying to get ahead in some of their credits so that they can take more electives next school year, but we're also going to offer remedial courses. We're going to offer credit recovery courses, and we're going to offer students, for example, more reading support and literacy classes. So we're going to have a really big summer school, and hopefully that will position us a little better for whatever the fall might bring. And Phil, all of those scenarios that you mentioned are the kinds of things that we also have in our back pocket as well.
Yeah, a lot of planning going on right now.
There is.
By both districts. Well, let's go ahead and end with the positive and the optimistic. What is, and I believe this in every tragedy and every kind of disaster, and I've spent my career working on those, there's a silver lining to all of these, I believe. And I'd be interested, I think our viewers would be interested in your perspective of what that silver lining is. So let's go ahead and start with you, Phil, and then we'll end with Eric on that one.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think one of those is that even though we're further apart, we're closer together in some ways as far as our community goes and our families on doing this. We realize it is a real challenge for our parents and our families of trying to work from home, also the students and making sure their work has been completed, especially at the younger grades. That's important as well. I think a second thing is we have found that, and Eric mentioned before, like with Zoom, there are some things that we probably could use technology more for in the future when we do get back to somewhat a near normal, that will make us work smarter rather than harder with that as well. A third one, which I think is very invigorating, is to see the community rallying together on this, whether it's food distribution, as I mentioned before, some financial grants that we have received to purchase more software and hardware for our students. It's really been wonderful to see that it really is all the whole community pulling together to do that as well.
I second that. I second that. How about you, Eric? Silver lining in all this.
Well, I'm going to butcher it, but there's a Winston Churchill quote that goes something like this: a pessimist sees challenges in every opportunity, and an optimist sees opportunity in every challenge. I think there's huge opportunity here right now. I keep reminding people all the time, we are literally reinventing, redesigning, recreating, reimagining everything we do. We have a senior awards night coming up next week. We've had to completely rethink what that's going to be like. We have a graduation coming up. We had to completely redesign and rethink what that's going to be like. And more to academics, we have classes going on, and we have to redesign and rethink, how do we deliver education the best we can? I really think that we are learning a lot. And so, you know, we'll be drawing off of what we already knew, what we took as routine, but we're also going to be having new eyes as we look at everything. And I think it's a great chance to really reinvigorate and improve education. I think it's really a great chance to realize, okay, what we did worked, but now the new things we learned, if we incorporate many of those as well, we ought to be able to make a system that works even better than we've ever seen before. So that's what I'm seeing. And I'll be perfectly honest, I don't want to sound too optimistic to people who are suffering in so many ways, but I see great opportunity in what's going on, and I think it's going to make education better.
Yeah, I see some great opportunities for young people to observe leadership when leadership's really needed. You know, and I think we're all observing that, and I hope appreciating in a greater way the value of leadership. I also think, just as a parent, that there's something special about it all slowed down. It came to a screeching halt, and all of a sudden, siblings who were running in different directions and parents that were running in different directions are actually together more, maybe too much so, all right? And we all need a little time to ourselves. But I think that our kids who are all younger than us and will live longer than us, God willing, you know, we'll look back on this time and have a special bond and a special connection because of this pandemic of 2020.
It's also been refreshing to see our students doing a lot of community service too, to help meet needs. I think that's a lesson that we all learn very hard, and it's a very great lesson to have, that you learn a lot outside the classroom as you do inside the classroom.
Indeed, indeed. Well, a big thank you to you, Superintendent Witherspoon, Superintendent Earhart, for spending some time with us and all of those who are following very closely what's going on in our community as a result of coronavirus, and all doing their part to stay home and save lives, only going out when it's essential for a function or essential business. We're all in this together. We are so appreciative of your leadership and what is going on in the schools, and what the two of the schools along with the city has been doing to address some food insecurity issues, which are rising, not surprisingly, with the breakfast and the lunch program. So we really, from the city's perspective, value greatly the collaboration that we've had with both of you. I'm so glad that the schools are part of the mayor's coronavirus task force. So thank you for spending a few minutes with us, and be well, both of you, and be well, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.